Hello and welcome to another wonderful webinar with Dr. McDougall. And I'm Gustavo Tolosa, and we have a very good topic to talk about today. So I'll just welcome Dr. McDougall and thank you for making the time to talk to us. How are you?
I hope I can make a few converts and a few friends. This is a very difficult topic, Gustavo.
It is.
Nobody really wants to talk about it for a couple of reasons.
No.
Very pessimistic outlook, and you should have a pessimistic outlook. Hopefully, I give you an optimistic point of view when we get done with this. But we're in big trouble with the climate. The other thing is that I've discovered through my 50 years of medical practice that people don't like to talk about religion or politics or their diet. So they refuse to, even though the evidence is mounting the impact of diet on people's individual health, they likewise deny the impact of their own personal diet on the planet's health. But let me take you back a bit. I did my training at Michigan State University, and then I went to the university. It was actually the Queens Medical Center internship training program. And then I became a sugar plantation doctor, and I took care of people for 3 years by traditional medicine. But I observed that my plantation patients were not equally healthy. Their health depended upon what generation they came from. And my first generation patients, who were from native lands such as Japan, China, Korea, the Philippines, they lived on a diet basically of rice and vegetables, almost no dairy and no animal foods. Their kids became victims of the rich Western diet. They got fatter and sicker. So that's where I discovered my capabilities, my inabilities to be a doctor too, and to help people. And the real important thing is that food does count. Back then I was told diet had nothing to do with the diseases of your patients. Anyway, that was in about 1986 that I was able to convert my practice to simple dietary practice of medicine. In other words, it's called diet therapy. And what you do is you identify the diet as the problem, and you stop the diet, long-term or short-term, and this behavioral change results in very positive things if you make the right steps. So anyway, I've been working for 44 years running institutional programs at St. Helena Hospital and our resort in Santa Rosa, California. I've published 2 scientific papers on our work, and there's been there are 2 independent papers of our work, and published in the scientific literature, a total of three scientific papers. And we have a history of 12,000 people. I've written 13 national best-selling books along with Mary. I guess in sum, what I'd like you to say, without sounding inappropriate or tooting my own horn, is we've worked hard for 44 years to show people how to eat. And based on the criticism that I've received, which is basically none, and the results that we get which are basically, they're almost magical in terms of people's healing. I have to say that Mary and I have made an impact on how people think about food, about medicine, about their health, about cooking food. Anyway, that's 50 or 44 years of intense effort to solve the individual health problems of people who have diabetes and high blood pressure, and help them with cancer and reverse their heart disease and stop their inflammatory arthritis. We got that down. And there are many people who are learning from us. And of course, my history, I have many mentors whose shoulders I stand on. Well, okay, I'm on to another project. I'm in my mid-70s, been through some interesting experiences. And so I've decided what I'm going to do on it is take on a brand new patient. And that patient is planet Earth, yeah. We've got to stop making her sick, and we've got to supply the things that make her healthy, and we've got to do it quick. The problem is the food, just like with my individual patients, as Gustavo well knows. It's the food. And once you fix the food, then everything else follows in terms of good health, weight loss, feeling great, and so on. It's the same thing with the planet, ladies and gentlemen. If we stop abusing her, if we stop the repeated injuries, and they're primarily fossil fuels, and we have to correct problems that are really important but neglected and under individual control, which is what I want to talk to you about now, and that's diet. I first discovered the importance of climate change from Al Gore in his 2006 lecture and video, which was called The Inconvenient Truth. He made a sequel in 2017. In both of these very important documents by Al Gore, he failed to mention anything about food. Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Even though he was dealing with data that had been presented the same year by the World Health Organization that showed that 18% of our greenhouse gases were due to agriculture, primarily the meat industries, the animal food industries. And that compares to 14% of all of our transportation. So you can see the magnitude of it. But the World Watch Institute, who reevaluated the World Health Organization's data, they came out with some bigger figures. They came to the conclusion, taking in a whole bunch of factors that should have been taken in by the World Health Organization, that over 51% of the greenhouse gases are produced by agriculture. But neither one of these organizations, the World Health Organization or World Watch Institute, mentioned food. Nothing. And then we went on to the Eat Lancet Commission, which is the most respected organization in the world. The Eat Lancet Commission is a commission that's put together to decide the impact of diet on the climate. And they do it. They do a nice job. I mean, they originally told us it would be 12 years before we passed a point of no return, and now they've revised it. So even though they published all this stuff that's convincing that we ought to get rid of the animal foods to save ourselves, they don't mention anything about practical ways to do that. They really don't offer an enthusiastic approach. They're still back on the fossil fuel type stuff, which is important. And then we had 2021, the Intergovernmental Climate Change Panel. Yeah. They just came out, they said they gave a red alert. And they came out and told us that we are really, really at the point of no return. You can't have missed that. The Intergovernmental Commission on Climate Change, yeah. But they didn't mention how to practically change your diet. That's what people have to know, is how do you do this? You have to get over a whole bunch of misinformation, like you got to eat meat to get your protein. You got to drink dairy to get your calcium. All complete nonsense. Well, we've developed a program to answer these questions for individuals. And, basically we've cured, thousands of people of their dietarily induced diseases by the rich American diet. So we have gone over these myths, these misunderstandings, provided a tremendous education program. In fact, we're putting together the Starch Solution Certification course again, which if you want an education, this is like 13 or 14 or 15 lectures that Mary and I gave. So anyway, we're also developing a website, and I would encourage you to save your money and make a donation if you think what we're doing is worthwhile. To the foundation, the website is dedicated to our new patient. Right now it's called A Storybook Tale. And the website takes you through kind of a storybook. As you go and you learn a little bit about our work and what needs to be done and why we're capable of doing it. We're really capable of helping people make changes, as Gustavo knows, and as many people who've been through our program know. That's the talent we have to offer. We don't have to tell you again how beef is destroying the rainforests and results in the greatest amount of carbon and methane of all the animals, which you're not going to be eating anymore. No, well, we can teach you how to do this for free on the website. There's a 12-day program. Pretty much all the articles are free. Or we have a telemarketing, telemedicine program, which I hope somebody gets involved in, because it's it's a life changer. And we take care of people in Argentina, Brazil, China, Philippines, all over the world. And they attend, they get medical care, which is really important because most of these people are on blood pressure and diabetic pills. They need a little advice. And we take care of them for 12 days. We're actually starting a program this Friday. And that's a lot of fun, Anyway, what you need to do is, I could say you need to follow the McDougall diet. All right, we could do that. We could say, well, follow the McDougall diet, and that upset a few people. I got another way of introducing it. Is what I want you to do is I want you to follow the diet that people have traditionally eaten. I'm talking about the diet that 99.999% of the people who ever walked this earth have eaten. And that's a diet based on starch. Starch. Yeah, I know it's become an evil word, but again, I'll help you correct this misinformation. Do you know this? You know that the American Indian lived on corn. And if we went a little further south to Central America, the Mayans and the Aztecs were known as the people of the corn. In the Andes, they grow 400-600 species of potatoes. And the people of the Andes, Peru, for example, they lived on potatoes basically until they went to war, and then they ate quinoa because it was lighter in carry. You start heading around the planet, you go to the Middle East, and what you are is at the bread basket of the world. What do you think they eat there? Bread. Yeah, they eat barley and wheat, and, some vegetables, of course. And if you go a little bit further, when I mention Asian countries, you automatically think about rice, don't you? Yeah, even white rice. Before 1980, 90% of the diet among Asians consisted of white rice. Before 1980, they had no obesity or type 2 diabetes either. And then they changed to the Western diet. They've gotten overweight, sick, just like Americans and Europeans. So the problems of food, we have to have an international revolution. And I do mean this. I don't know how it's going to start, I hope I add a few sparks to it. But we need to this is something we could do as individuals. We can put huge pressure on industry. But we need to right now stop the greatest source of greenhouse gases, which is the agricultural industry. It's the animal food industry. And instead, you need to live on oatmeal for breakfast. Big deal if you get to watch your grandchildren play in a playground. Would you eat oatmeal for breakfast? What would you do? Would you eat a bean burrito instead of a beef burrito? Would you eat a bean burrito if you got to spend one more day at work with your friends? What would you do? What is the climate of destruction worth to you? Well, pasta and marinara sauce. Oh boy, that's worth an extra week on the. Anyway, you get my sarcasm. It's little or no price to pay at all, and there's so much to gain, both in personal health, kindness to the planet, and healing that needs to go on in both areas. You're doing nothing that has a negative side to it, except for the fact that you have to become aware and willing to change. And thanks to Gustavo, and thankful for thousands of other people out there now these days, the message is being spread. But again, I reinforce where I see our role here. Okay, that what our contribution is diet therapy. In other words, we know how to teach people how to get their health back, and we know how to teach people how to get our home back, which is planet Earth. Any questions you have, Gustavo, or did I cover it pretty thoroughly?
That was great, Dr. McDougall. You covered that. That's exactly what I was going to ask you to give us an overview of where you were at when you started your career, where you're now. And I'd like to show you and our viewers here just this. I found it the other day, and how much water it takes from our planet to eat these foods that are made basically from animals, and how how what you were mentioning earlier, the greenhouse gas emissions. So, and also just to show what happened this week, that I thought it was interesting, is to see some of these articles. I think you were mentioning the UN report on the climate crisis. That's one. Then the other one that appeared this week was the devastating new again. And this in this article, it is explained. And then there's another one here that I want to show. This one that's at-risk nations, fears extinction. And last one more I want to show. I think this is the one we were talking about. The the ocean system heading for collapse. So I just think that it is interesting to see how this news is coming back. Like you were saying, it's as if, well, it's not as if people are not told what they can do. We get this news, and now what? And you just said it. So we need a worldwide revolution. How do we start it?
Well, I hope so. I come from the Vietnam era. And, when I was a teenager, when they were subjecting me to the draft, which they did, we got out in the streets and we protested, burned our draft cards. Where are the people in the streets? I see Greta Thunberg, and I'm glad for her. But where are the rest of us? All lives matter. We are in big trouble. And I think we still have an option. The option that we have to play is the food card. We got to, of course, solve the fossil fuel things. That's absolutely crucial. But
right.
The thing that's being overlooked, as I mentioned, nobody is talking about it in terms of practical change. Anyway, rather than calling it switch to the McDougall diet, which you know it as so do hundreds of thousands of people, I just say switch to a traditional diet that your recent ancestors ate. Good grief, we're not talking about something, unless you have from the king's court.
Right.
Right.
When you mention that, it reminds me, Dr. McDougall. Yeah, nobody's mentioning diet, but nobody has been mentioning diet for all of these illnesses like diabetes, obesity, heart disease for years. Nobody has mentioned it during our present time. We're in this pandemic for COVID, and nobody's mentioned that food can also be a major help. And now with climate, so it seems that food, for some reason, maybe some industries, I don't know, it's just not convenient. Or I don't like to talk about conspiracy theories, but what is going on? The food is never mentioned.
Yeah, I don't. Like I say, people don't like to talk about their own personal dinner plate. I think that's the biggest problem. Right. And they're really afraid. I mean, we spent a half a century making people afraid not to eat beef and dairy. It's pretty well built into them. And the fact that, what they've taught us, starches are fattening, contrary to every observation you could make. Right. So we have a tremendous amount of brainwashing that we have to straighten out for people to get this to change. Mm-hmm. And right. I don't know. If you talk to me from my personal experiences, in some way I'm very positive. We've got some people to make dietary changes like yourself. And it's been a great reward. But, Gustavo, I used to think that when I finished my medicine residency, that people would be lining up from the Honolulu airport to my office 15 minutes away just to see me. They've never shown up. No. So, realizing the reality of the situation, this kind of change is difficult. Right. You have to face that, and the fact that what we're sacrificing next is everything. Now, right. Is everything enough? Is it enough for people to pay attention? I don't know, but our entire foundation is now focused on getting my hand up and waving it high enough to get somebody to notice that it's the food. We got to fix the food. We got 7 billion people on this planet that need to start eating starch like they used to. Potatoes,
Yes, and,
right?
right. And what are the, I mean, your website is drmcdougall.com. What is the other one for the foundation, or is it in the same
Well,
site?
it isn't quite up yet, but you can reach pretty much everyone.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to be up in about a month. Right now it's called, as I told you, it's a storybook tale.
Right.
And the website's going to take you through a storybook. And what this is a storybook about is diet therapy for planet Earth, how we stay planet Earth.
Right.
And
So,
I think it's going to make an impression. I really do.
okay. Well, when it's launched, we need to do a webinar and show it.
Oh,
What do you say, Dr. McDougall, to people? I've heard this now a few times. People who say that the Earth has gone through other extinctions due to climate change, and this is just another natural cycle that the planet is going through. And this time they're just humans, and other times there hasn't been humans. So
these people are in denial. I can't deal with them, nor is it my job to deal with them. They can deal with the scientists, the experts. Again, all I can do is teach you the food, what to do. There is so much lying going on, and I don't. I mean, it's just every aspect of our life. So, we want the truth. That's the truth, and it's really simple. The problem is it's contrary to money.
Yes, exactly. What can I present you here with a question from one of our viewers? She says, Dr. McDougall, I don't understand why I cannot eat starch such as potatoes, rice, and oats. Why do they spike my blood glucose really, really high?
Okay. Well, first thing I would encourage you to do is spend time on the website, read about diabetes, look at the 12-day program, and also consider going to our 12-day internet telemedicine, telehealth program where we will change you. Believe me, we got 12 days to get you to rethink things, and so that's the most helpful thing to do. As far as your blood sugar going up after you eat starches, well, probably. I mean, after all, your blood sugar is supposed to go up, isn't it? What you want to do is you want to look at the overall results. The overall results are very clear. Type 2 diabetes is essentially 100% curable with any weight loss program. I mean, bariatric surgery, 80% of the people were cured of type 2 diabetes. And of course, our approach is much more effective, a lot safer and a lot cheaper too. So you can get rid of the type 2 diabetes. So if your long-term goal is to get your health back, then temporary rises in your blood sugar are expected. And of course, we would help you through this period during our 12-day internet program, which you can find on our website. Anyway, it's
Right.
simple for me to understand because I've taken care of hundreds of
Yes.
But I know it's hard for you to understand because you've been taught different. You've been taught starches are bad. Starches turn to sugar. Sugar turns to fat. It's not true. It's physiologically not true. And anyway.
Well, one thing I have noticed people, because at one point I was doing a book club on diabetes, and so people tend to take, to measure their blood sugar levels right after you eat. And like you're saying, what matters is the overall levels. And if I eat a high starch food, meal, and 2 minutes later I take my blood glucose, it's going to be high, right?
Well, yeah, of course it will. And besides that, again, I'll go back to it. What are you looking for?
Right.
Lower blood sugar, or you're looking to get your health back and cure your type 2 diabetes. There's different end goals. My goal as a medical doctor is to get you cured. Not give you a bunch of pills or manage your disease. No, I'd like you to be cured of your type 2 diabetes and your multiple sclerosis and your rheumatoid arthritis and your coronary artery disease. And ladies and gentlemen, I say this without slightest hesitation. And I want to tell you something else. Is what I'm telling you has become the majority opinion. Most scientists and aware physicians understand why people are sick in this country. They may focus too much on the sugar part, They understand the animal foods, and many of them are starting to understand the impact of oil. So, whereas when I started out half a century ago, I was pretty isolated, to say the least. And these days, I share the platform with many competent people who are trying to teach the public the same thing. And more power to you. Same thing, more power to you, Gustavo, for bringing the people together to hear this.
Well, yeah, I think it comes down, Dr. McDougall, to education. People are not, they're not, they don't know. They're not being educated. So, like you said, they still think potatoes will, turn into fat. And so, how do we do a worldwide education?
Yeah. It's by government. Government is designed to protect us from foreign and domestic threats. You've got to have a government to build an army. You can't have IBM do it or Hewlett Packard. And so you develop an army to defend against foreign threats. Well, we have a domestic threat, and that's the food industry. And I'm talking about a threat that potentially will destroy everything on this planet. So we need governmental action. And of course, some of the things that are happening in the United States right now, I'm really positively excited about. Decisions are being made. I don't want to discuss politics with you, but, I see some really important decisions being made and heading in the right direction.
Right.
So if we could get the government interested in really getting this message out, Gustavo, we could do things like buy commercials on the cartoons every Saturday morning.
Right.
We could take and pull off the dairy industry supplied basic food chart that they send to the school teachers, and we put a real food chart up. And we can make really tasty foods in the cafeteria for the kids, and they go, "Oh, I like this bean burrito just as well as I like the one my mom makes." We can do that. The food is really good. And then, of course, we change the healthcare system. We change the rewards. No longer will get doctors paid piecemeal. In other words, the more people I see, the more I do, the more money I make. We got to change that system. Otherwise, there's no motivation for us to keep our customers, our commodity, healthy.
Right.
So what we do is there are various kinds of systems where the doctors are rewarded for keeping people healthy. And one of them is called capitation, if you want to look into it. So we need to change the medical system. We need to have, basic warnings put on food, like the slab of beef, which should say, warning, environmental poison. This will ruin your rivers and lakes and streams and put dirt in your atmosphere. They need warnings, just like cigarette packages. Warning, cigarettes will give you cancer. And that made a difference. That made a huge difference. And people smoking, we can do the same thing with food. This food is killing you and the planet. Your big red star up there.
Yes. Are you aware of any places and any countries in the world that use another system like you were describing, where the doctors are encouraged?
They tell me that in China they do, in rural China. But we used it in the United States. We had a capitated system in the U.S. about 20 years ago. But, big farm, big hospital, whatever, they stopped it. What we need, I'll tell you what we really need is we need universal health care. For me, from the point of view of a doctor who's taken care of thousands of people over the last half century, I think health care is a right, and it's not the privilege that we placed on it. And I don't think we should be in a situation where even me, how successful I've been, one bad illness, my entire fortune could be wiped out, Gustavo. That's not right. That's not fair. That's not fair. Anyway, especially, so we get this universal healthcare system, and then from the top down. And I'm sorry if I offended your political failings. From the top down, you say this is the way it's going to be. It's just like we're mandating vaccines right now. It's gotten to the point which you all probably realize, if you're current, this is a current production, that COVID is way out of control.
Right.
And so what they're doing is they're locking the place down. You can't go to a restaurant, bar, go to work, whatever, unless you've had the vaccine.
Right.
Well, you know what? Until you take this class on how people should eat, don't come to work. I don't know. Or put healthy cafeterias in these businesses. There's just so much education that could happen if there was the will and the knowledge and the will on individuals as well as companies. But I have faith, Gustavo. I've been around long enough to see a lot of changes, a lot of swings, and I think we're on a positive swing right now. And what we have to do is we have to fix the food. So get your army out there,
That's right.
It's time to get to work, guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dr. McDougall, this has been a wonderful time that we've spent together. And we'll just have to do our, like you were saying earlier, let's all do put a little grain of salt or sand.
Yeah. Well, Gustavo, I enjoy talking to you always. I enjoy you too. I wonder if you could send a copy to Heather, and maybe we can put it up.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Anytime that we want to do something like this, I'm always available. You're my favorite webinar person.
Yeah, I bet you're waiting until I can do it in Spanish, right?
Right. I'm still waiting for you to take those Spanish classes.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I tried for 10 years. I tried to learn. And I was just, I started in my 50s, and I just was too late to learn.
It is difficult. I have to say, knowing both languages, I have to say that Spanish is more difficult.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. They're all beyond my capabilities. So English.
Well, all right. Very good. We'll see
you
in another webinar in the future.
I always enjoy being with you. So.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Bye-bye.